Okay, let's go ahead and talk about exception handling. And got a little app here that we can use to go ahead and exhibit exception handling. It's called Quotient. And really, we could have put exception handling on many of the applications that we've done in the past. Did you ever try clicking on the cancel button, or did you put in a double when the program was expecting an end to crash, right? So these kinds of things need to be handled. So we've got a program here. If you look at the PDF, it says that this stuff is in the appendix. Go ahead and read that. But basically, first of all, we're just going to shoot out a little dialogue telling you how the program works. Then we're going to prompt the user using a GUI for the dividend and then for the divisor. And then we're going to go ahead and show the math in a dialogue. And we're going to go ahead and experience what happens when we enter 0. We're not supposed to divide by 0. Or what happens when you enter in text instead of numbers. Like I ask you how old you are, and you spell out 21 instead of just typing in the numbers 21. Or what happens if you press escape or click cancel when you're entering in data? Well, that's going to crash the program here. So we've got to go ahead and handle that, deal with that. Okay, so if you look at the PDF, I give you the pseudocode. I give you an understanding of how the try-catch is going to go ahead and work. And it's really important that you spend a little time trying to understand that. Okay, so let's just go ahead and start NetBeans up and knock this one down. Now, the way I'm going to build this is I'm going to go ahead and just build the essential part of the program first, and then I'm going to add the exception handling to it. So let me go ahead and just do a file, new project, Java application, next, and I'm going to go ahead and call it Quotient, right? It's on the desktop, and I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the package statement. Let's go ahead and click on Finish. All right, I'm going to get rid of the unessential comments. I'm depending on you to put in the general comments at the top. Project, programmer, date, description. Let's go ahead and align the curly brackets. All right, so we're ready to go ahead and get started. Now I understand that this is going to be a GUI app, and I'm going to need to format the data to 2 decimal places. So let's just go ahead and get that out of the way, get those import statements, out of the way. So let's go ahead and add those. We're going to use swing. That's where the J option pane resides. And we'll use this for the dialogues. And we're going to bring in the decimal formatter class, which is inside the text package. All right, now we're ready to go ahead and build our program. So the first thing I do is I go ahead and tell everybody how the program works. And then I have the actual program. The actual program isn't really a whole lot. There's really not a whole lot to this. If I dispense with the opening string, let me just go ahead and build the meat of this program, and then we'll branch out. So we'll go ahead and prompt the user and show the data. All right. So I'll do my first string. And this is going to be the show input dialog, right? And our arguments are going to be null. And then we're going to go ahead and say, something simple. I believe it's just enter the dividend. Yeah, that's as simple as that. Put in a colon. I think it looks nicer. And then I'm going to put this in number 1. Put it, and it's going to be a double. So I create a variable called number 1. And then I'm going to have to go ahead and parse it because it's a string. So that works out. And then I'm going to go ahead and just copy this. Live life dangerously, as I usually say. And in this particular case, we're going to go ahead and enter in the divisor, right? And since response has already been used, I have to take away the declaration of response so that I can just simply use the variable again and change number 1 to number 2 for the variable name, and everything's cool. Because you can't, if response has already been declared, you can't declare it again. Same thing for variable call number 1. I go ahead and call it number 2 then. All right. So then now I can go ahead and then do my math on here, which is double quotient gets number 1, variable number 1 divided by number 2. As easy as that. And I'm just going to go ahead and do my string output on here. Create a variable called output. And in this case, I'll just have number 1 concatenated with symbol for division, which is a string, concatenated with number 2, right? And then we're going to go ahead and show quotient, right? This is one big old string, so the equal sign should be in a string, and then concatenate that with the last the variable called quotient. So that should work out. If it doesn't, we'll go ahead and check it out again. So it's something is disagreeing here. We'll go ahead and take it one step at a time on here. So string output is equal to, or gets, shall I say, number 1 plus this string here plus number 2. Oh, we're missing a plus sign right there. See that? Plus another string. So remember, since I've been talking about what is concatenation, in this case, it's a variable plus a string plus a variable plus a string plus a variable, right? All of that is going into output. And then I'm going to go ahead and just simply show this in the JAction pane. Show message dialog. So we'll say null. We're going to pass output. Are we going to do anything else? Yeah, let's go ahead and put quotient in the title bar. And let's go ahead and put in the image of number 1 for information. So this is basically the program. We've got 2 prompts, calculate. We've been doing this since the very beginning here. You prompt one time, prompt again, you do your little math on here, and then you create a little output string, which is concatenation and variables. And then we just show it. We're either showing it to the console or we've been showing it to the dialog. It's that's what we've been doing since, for many weeks now. So let's go ahead and run this and see what happens. So let's say that I go ahead and put in a 12 and then a 4. And then compare it with the PDF. So yeah, the answer is 3. They're doubles, but the PDF is showing me that I want to have the data displayed to 2 decimal places. So I need a formatter to 2 decimal places. Okay, if I should probably just go ahead and knock down the requirements one at a time. So what I could do is knock that one out of the way. It's a decimal formatter, and typically we'll just declare the decimal formatter right before we're going to end up using it. So let's say that we want to use it right here where we're building the string, right after the formula. So we'll say decimal format, and I'll just call it df gets new decimal format. Have we done this enough times? And then we're going to pass it a particular pattern, and it's going to be optional, 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 and then required, required. That's going to be our pattern. So then now, to apply it, if I want to apply it to the numbers, all 3 numbers here, the way I do it is I just double click on the number, do a Control X, and say df.format, and pass it Control V. That's number 1, right? So let's just go ahead and do that again. So it's the format method, and we pass it the number that we want to get formatted. In this case, the number 2. We're going to do that again with the quotient. Let's cut that and then do a df.format and pass it quotient. Now this is a very, very long on here, so I'm going to go ahead and press enter here. That sort of helps the look on here. So if I run this again, I'm going to be running this a lot of times. I want to clean it out, on here. So the first thing I do is put in a 12 and then a 4, and that gives me my output. See how it's formatted now? You've got to be able to distinguish this level of detail. I'm not seeing it with some students. They put it in the decimal formatter, but they're not applying it. So if you don't apply it, you don't get credit, right? So the next thing I want to do in the order of importance here is put in the little dialog, and that happens at the very beginning of the program. This dialog, I just tell the people how the program works. That's a really long sentence, so let's just type it in. So string, I'm going to call it message gets, and I'm just going to go ahead and terminate it right away, so I won't have to see the the error message going on and on and on and on and on. So we'll say this program prompts for dividend, and then let's go down to the next line then on here. Divisor and returns quotient. Fancy math words, huh? We're going to go down a line, and we'll say input can be whole space, and I'm just going to go down a line again. See how it kind of looks nicer when you just terminate your string and then just, that way you don't see that red line all the time. Of course, it's red right now because I had to put in the next string on here. And we're going to go ahead and continue a whole number. And you can just type this right out of your PDF or floating point. Quotient will have this format. And I'm going to go ahead and go down to the next line on here, put in a plus sign, and the format will be down a line. Dividend divided by divisor. Gives you the quotient. And then I give you an example so you won't get mixed up. 12 divided by 4 is equal to 3. So dividends on top, divisors on the bottom, quotient is what you end up getting. Let's put in the little period there. And then we're going to go down the line here. No, actually, we're going to, yeah, we'll go down the line. And then we'll just say press OK to continue. Is it a capital OK? I don't know. I'll check. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's a capital OK. Talk about level of detail, right? You know, so, you know, you got to pay attention to stuff. Huh? All right. So nothing happens unless I pass this to the show message dialog. So G option pane. Show message dialog. No. And then we're going to go ahead and pass the message in. But we're going to want something in the title bar. Probably should do it without this to show you, but this is how you get something to show in the title bar of the message, of the dialogue that we're going to be seeing. I'll point it out to you. And this little number here gives us the icon that we're going to use. So let's go ahead and run it, see what we got. So here's the little icon, the little I. The number 1 gives me that icon. And this quotient program, and it's in the title bar. That happens if you put this in as the 3rd argument. So show message dialog is an overloaded method. It can take a different number of arguments. So when we provide 4, it gives us this kind of look. So we pass message, that's what shows up in the middle here, and I've got a big old OK button. When I click this, it goes to the next step on here. Now this is where I'm gonna, like, say for example, what happens if I click cancel? You know, I get all these little sort of like red errors down here below, you know? So these are the kinds of things that we want to deal with. Like here, if I type in text, I get more red stuff, right? So this is the stuff that we want to stop. We you know, if you do part of it, you know, and you end up doing something you're not supposed to do, you know, you can't divide by 0. In this case, we get something called infinity. Yes, that is an error message. Okay, it's one of the many different kinds of error messages that you get. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and handle that. Now, the way to handle that, we're going to be doing a little bit of cutting and pasting and stuff like that. We're going to create a try-catch block. But not only we're going to create a try-catch block, I'm going to go ahead and do a little if that's going to test for 0, just to do something a little bit different. You know, if you want, you can go ahead and come over here and comment the main method out. Not out, but to comment it so you can know where you are. And then, of course, the class. Okay. So let's create our try-catch block. And I'm gonna go ahead and want this right after the opening message. So we're gonna say try. And I'm gonna build my try-catch, and then I'm gonna put the code that I want inside the blocks. So I'm gonna say try, opening curly brackets, and then I press enter, and it puts the closing curly bracket in there. But I'm not finished yet. I gotta go ahead and have some catches. The catches are what will handle things. So I'm gonna say catch, In this particular case, I'm going to catch a number format exception. And I'm going to call it NFE, number format exception. And I'm going to go ahead and put some code there in just a minute. And I'm going to have one more catch. This is called, the next one here will be the generic catch. And that would be just exception, class exception, which catches all exceptions. And there's pros and cons to having specific catches and generic catches. So, you know, the benefit of the generic catch is that it catches everything. The bad part about it is that you don't know what the exact error message was. With reference to if I'm trying to catch a number format class, it's because, you know, you need to enter in numbers instead of text. So it handles a very, 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 very specific kind of situation. So let's go ahead and, you know, type in how we want to handle this. In this particular case, we'll say G-option pane. And of course, show message dialog. We want to say something. If I can spell right today. Should just pick from the down list, right? Long night. M, there it is, finally. So I'm going to go ahead and just say no. And these are like little placeholders. And then we'll say, you must enter numbers. Try again. Why not please try again? Doesn't that sound nicer if you say please? I'm going to go ahead and press enter there. And then we're going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And put that in here too. But I'm going to edit it. You know I have to edit it, right? So in this particular case, I'm going to say an error has occurred. Remember? You don't know exactly what happened here. An error has occurred. Try again. And I think we probably should be, you know, people forget, like I think maybe I forgot in your PDF, just noticing here, I don't think I put, yeah, I did put periods. Yeah, I don't know why. Yeah, you should put periods in there at the end of it. You know, if you have a sentence, you should definitely put a period. Of course, you can catch that when you run the program. Now, what I want to do now is I need to put the code that I need to try inside of the try block. The catch blocks will catch depending upon the situation that occurs. So in this particular case, I'm going to go ahead and just get this code right in here. Make sure that you don't get something you shouldn't, just get what you need. I'm going to do a, you know, Control X, and then pop it right in to the try block. Okay. Doesn't look like it indented right, so but I'll go in there, indent things properly. All right. I think the indentation is important. You know, you don't want to go beyond the red line as well. Make your code look nice. You know. All right, so I'm going to do the same stuff, but this time I have some catches. So I haven't finished yet, but let's go ahead and see how this can help us with the way our program behaves. So again, I'm catching for putting ASDF. I'm not catching for the 0. I could do that with an exception, but I'm going to catch it with an if. And then the other one would be, you know, that an error has occurred, a generic. So this, first I just, hey, this is what the program does. So I'm going to enter in a 12, and then I'm going to just type in 4 because I'm a troublemaker, right? F-O-U-R. Well, it says you must type in number. So, and the number exception class caught, right? All right, so let's just go ahead and try this again. So this caught because the format number exception says, hey, I got to have numbers, right? Try it again here. I'm going to put in 12. In this case, I just click cancel. And it just says an error has occurred. This is the general exception is being caught, okay? But what if I do, if I'm a real troublemaker, and I put in a 12, and then I put in a 0, then I get this error message of infinity. That is what I want to catch now, and that's the last thing that I want to go ahead and do. All right? So I'm going to use an if statement for that. I'm going to scroll up to the top. And I want to make sure that number 2 is not 0. And if that's the case, then I will go ahead and do my program on here. And that'll occur after my prompt. So it'll occur, it can occur right in here. Okay. So let me go ahead and say if, and the condition is number 2, if it's not equal to 0, because we don't want to divide by 0, right? Press enter, and then I'm going to put in my curly bracket, and it puts in the closing, right? But then I want to have an else, and then put something in there. In this case, I'll say you cannot divide by 0. All right? You cannot by 0. Please try again. Okay. And I'll just press enter right here. So that'll happen. They'll get the message if they do type in 0. But if they don't type in 0, this is a neat example of how not is important. So in this particular case, I want my program, my main program, to execute here. So where's my main program? This is my main program right in here. This is what I want done. So let me go ahead and get this code here. And I'm going to do a Control X and pop it right in here. Press enter and then do a Control V. I didn't indent well, so I'll just go ahead and fix the indentation. And now we're cooking with gas, right? Put this on the next line. Want to make my code look purty, as they say here in Texas. And let's take one last look at it. Look at everything and see how it works. Okay, so this is the main programs here. I do the prompts and I say if the second number is not equal to 0, because we don't want to be able, the computer doesn't like to divide by 0, right? If you don't enter a 0, then we'll do the program. Then guess what? If you do enter a 0, I'll tell you, hey, you know what? You can't enter a 0, you know? And then we're going to have the 2 catches on here. And I'm just getting rid of needless white space on here. So let's just go ahead and run the program and see what it does. I guess we should put in a 0 to see the difference. See, last time we did the 0, we got that infinity thing, right? So we'll put in 12. We'll put in 4. Oh, I did it the right way. Okay, so now it's, you can see it formatted. So let's put in the 0, like I said I was going to do, right? So we'll put in the 12. Put in the, no, not the 4. We'll put in the 0 now. We're gonna try to divide by 0. And then it says you cannot divide by 0. So now I have all different kinds of ways of handling errors in this program. If they enter in text instead of numbers, I have a catch for that. If they click cancel, I have a catch for that. If they try to divide by 0, I got a catch for that. So I would say that this is a successful program. That it's a lot more professional when you and it's an appendix because it's considered a finishing topic. Typically, you want to run your program without exception handling until the very end. You want to experience the kinds of errors that you need to go ahead and handle. And so it's a finishing topic. Exception handling is typically something that you do before you turn in your program.